Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be going over all the things I got in November of 2021. I'm slowly catching up to where we are now, the present, so please be patient with me. Also, of course, still working on this new lighting setup, so if anyone has any suggestions on that, please let me know as well. And for those of you who are not familiar with this series of videos I do here on my channel, it is exactly as the title suggests. I just go through a specific month's worth of stuff, typically movies, some comic books, things like that, things that I'm into, of course. Of course, this being Chasing Labels, we're all into the physical media realm of movies, so that is exactly what this channel is predominantly about. There is also a podcast called Chasing Labels as well, where we dive into all of the upcoming announcements of all the upcoming movies that are being put on Blu-ray from various boutique labels. There are going to be a lot of boutique label stuff here in this video, so it is appropriate. So without further ado, let me get into kind of the stuff I got during that month, and starting off with the Black Friday sale stuff. So I went to my local Best Buy a week or two before the actual Black Friday day, because they already had their movies on sale for the prices that they were selling it at. They already had all of the standees set up, and all the movies separated, all the televisions were set up and everything. So I decided, hey, might as well get them now and beat the rush. So first up here is actually my current favorite movie of 2021, and this is the 4K UHD release of The Green Knight starring Dev Patel, an incredible fantasy surreal film that I just was like, this movie is incredibly ambitious. Just right up my alley. You know, a lot of slow things happening, a lot of surreal things happening, a lot of wild things happening, and I was just swept up in the gorgeousness of this film, and I can't wait to rewatch it in the UHD format. Next up here is another film that came out last year, and this is Godzilla vs. Kong, which is the newest film in the kind of kaiju Godzilla universe from Warner Brothers, and this is the big battle between Godzilla and King Kong. And just being a big Godzilla and King Kong fan, I had to get this. Unfortunately, of course, due to what everything that's going on in the world, I wasn't able to see this in the theater, but I was able to see it on HBO Max when it premiered, and now I have it in the collection. It's not my favorite film of that franchise. It's not really my favorite film of 2021, but I kind of had to get it for completeness sake. And then next up is a film that desperately needed an upgrade in some type of form, and this is V for Vendetta. And this is a film that came out on Blu-ray way back in the 2000s, probably after it came out. It probably came out on Blu-ray, and that Blu-ray has been floating around in various versions now for many years. And with a lot of Warner Brothers films that were put out on Blu-ray in the 2000s and early 2010s, they need re-releases, and luckily we got one for V for Vendetta, because this looks heaps and bounds better than that Blu-ray and sounds a heck of a lot better too. And next up is a new film starring Tom Hanks, and this is directed by Paul Greengrass, and this is News of the World. Tom Hanks, once again, showing that he is one of the greatest actors of our time, ability to do many different things in many different genres. This is a kind of gritty western. This is a re-team up with his director from Captain Phillips, and this is just a really great film. I thought this was a fantastic, phenomenal film. Next up is an all-time classic. This is probably the classics of modern classics, and I say that with this movie coming out in 1994, which is a bit of a ways now, but it is still a modern classic, and that is The Shawshank Redemption. This, of course, has been out on Blu-ray for many years. This is an upgrade to the UHD 4K format. Of course, this film looks impeccably gorgeous. I mean, it looked gorgeous in every format you could ever see it in. Just an overall beautiful, fantastic film directed by Frank Darabont, of course, starring Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman. Next up here is A Quiet Place. And this is, of course, the film directed by John Krasinski from a few years ago. I, of course, did a movie review here on the channel when it came out in the theaters. And this was a really good, unique horror film when it came out, and of course it was a grand success when it came to critics as well as the box office, that they made a second one, directed by John Krasinski as well. And this film also came out last year during all the things that are going on right now, so this was something I saw not quite in theaters, but was able to see later on VOD and stuff like that, and of course now have it in the collection. Really good film, different than the first film, which is unique for a sequel. Usually sequels kind of piggyback off of similar things that are in the original film. This decided to do things a little bit different, change perspective and things, and focus on other characters, and I thought it was really, really good. And then lastly here is a film that I've actually never owned but have seen many times. And I saw this when I was super, super young back in the 90s. And this is Last Action Hero starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. And this is a film that kind of parodies all of the films that Arnold Schwarzenegger got famous for doing. That is the uniqueness of this movie here. And I've always been a fan of it, even though I didn't know the satire of it until I got much older and didn't understand the humor and things like that. And this next group of films is actually something I probably should have included in my October haul video, which I just shot. And this is all the stuff I got from an Indicator flash sale. And that actually took place in October, but it took so long to finally get to me that I thought I would just put it in this haul here. And, you know, it kind of goes with the whole boutique label stuff. And I got 4 films and a box set. First up here is The Mad Magician, which is starring the great Vincent Price, one of my really all-time favorite actors now. And this is a film that I had heard about years ago because Twilight Time, the late kind of defunct Twilight Time, put out a release of this many, many years ago. And luckily I was able to get this release of it as well. Once again, Indicator doing fantastic work on really all of their releases. There's not been one release I've got from them where I haven't been really happy with. Chock full of special features, the films look great, really loving this label. Next up is Footsteps in the Fog. It's a film starring Stuart Granger and Gene Simmons. The next is a pair of Howard Hawks films, and these are 2 films from early on in his career that he did in the 1930s. First up here is The Criminal Code starring Walter Huston, as well as Boris Karloff. This is a film from 1931, I believe, so right in that pre-code era. And then the other Howard Hawks film is 20th Century starring John Barrymore and Carole Lombard. And next is the big box set that I got here on the end, which is a 5th year anniversary re-release of the Sinbad trilogy. Of course, the films that have the special effects done by the great Ray Harryhausen. And for those of you trying to track this down, this was going for hundreds and hundreds of dollars on eBay and sites like that. At least the original version was. They changed things up here aesthetically when it comes to the re-release, so that the original owners can have a sense of, you know, uniqueness when it comes to those original first printings. This is effectively a second printing, which they don't typically do. That's why their stuff is so limited and I would say so collectible and valuable, but I was super glad to get this. This was what I ordered first. I ordered this right away as soon as the sale started. This next stack of movies that I have here are all from the Vinegar Syndrome Black Friday sale. And this is a sale that happens every year, and I've delved into it for my second time. And there are a couple of films here from their partner label titles, Fun City Editions, as well as from Vinegar Syndrome proper. Let's get to the Vinegar Syndrome titles first, and then the Fun City Editions. So first up here is a film called Fade to Black. This is a film that I watched actually sometime last year and really liked a lot. This is a film in which the premise is that there's this kind of young man who is a little bit odd, a little bit weird, perhaps not quite right in the head, and he starts committing murders, but done in the vein of classic movies, typically like 1930s and 40s gangster films, and I found that to be really fascinating. And as you can see here, we have a great artwork here on the cover, great artwork here on the back. The Vinegar Syndrome slipcovers are absolutely fantastic, unique things that are just this really hard, sturdy cardboard. They're not flimsy, and they just have a unique texture to them. I believe this one here has a little bit of embossing that you can kind of feel in some spots. The next up is one of their kind of big releases that a lot of people were looking forward towards, and this is the Paul Morrissey film Flesh for Frankenstein in the 4K UHD edition, as well as coming with the 3D edition too. So that is really cool, and this is a fantastic, amazing release. Comes in 2 different cases here. Amazing artwork, just something that I really want to spend some time on giving a full review of, because I think it's worthy. Great special features as well. We just had Brad Henderson on our podcast, who is one of the producers of a lot of the Vinegar Syndrome titles, and he did a lot of the special features on this release here. And yeah, it's a great wild film. Pair it up with Blood for Dracula and do yourself a kind of Udo Kier monster double feature, and it's truly unique experience. But moving on from there, we have a couple of films from Fun City Editions. First up here is Walking the Edge, and second up here is a film that I actually have seen, and that is Rancho Deluxe, starring Sam Waterston as well as Jeff Bridges. This is a film from the 1970s, so you're seeing the younger versions of those 2 actors. And then last, but certainly not least, is all the stuff I got at the Criterion sale in November of 2021. And for those of you who saw my kind of trip video that I do every single time the sale comes around, you've seen a couple of these before, but I did make a second trip and got a couple more things, so those are things you probably haven't seen. But first up here, let's look at the film Beasts of No Nation. Great, fantastic film. Came out on Netflix a few years ago. Was really one of Netflix's first big kind of festival acquisitions at the time. Really fantastic movie. Next is a film that I was so glad that they finally brought out on Blu-ray, and this is Lynn Ramsey's Ratcatcher, an astonishingly amazing film. And then next is a film by the great Satyajit Ray, and this is Devi. And next is a film that was not so much a blind buy as it was a film I watched last year when we covered it on the podcast when it was announced. And this is the film Throwdown. Super underrated. Highly recommend if you're looking for a movie and you're not really quite sure what to get, and you've kind of got all the other main titles and stuff like that, and you're looking for a bit of a surprise blind buy, pick this movie up. I highly recommend it. Next is a film by the great Hirokazu Koreeda, and this is Afterlife, another new release, I believe, from Criterion last year. I have to get more of his films in my collection, but unfortunately, we don't have a lot of his movies available on Blu-ray here in the US yet, which is really unfortunate because he's a fantastic, amazing director. Next is a film starring the late, great Bob Hoskins, and this is a film he did back in the 80s, and this is Mona Lisa. Just gorgeous cover art here. Really, what captured me about this is not only is the movie really good and Bob Hoskins fantastic in the movie, the cover art here is just gorgeous, just stunning. Next is a film by Gina Prince Bythewood, and this is Love and Basketball. Next is a film by Raoul Walsh starring Ida Lupino and Humphrey Bogart, and that is High Sierra. Another film that I waited so many years and was debating to buy on DVD, but never did, and I'm glad I waited because here I have a Criterion Blu-ray edition of it. So that is everything I got in November of 2021. If there's anything you want to see in any more depth, please let me know. Also, if you like this video, please check out the other videos on my channel, as well as my podcast, Chasing Labels. The link is below. And also, please subscribe.